Welcome to the channel about news from around the world. While you subscribe and like it, we're going to start.
The Bank of Russia is prepared to consider the possibility of exchanging assets blocked by the European Union and Russia as part of reciprocal sanctions. Such a conclusion can be drawn from statements made by representatives of the regulator at the last St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. But the authorities are prepared to take this step only on conditions that are equal for Russian investors. Why would it be difficult to make this plan a reality? The idea of total exchange of frozen assets was discussed by authorities for a long time. It appeared almost immediately after the first packages of sanctions against Russia were introduced. It should be recalled that Russian capitals were subjected to a blockade, both public and private. According to the Bank of Russia, about half of the regulator's $612.9 billion reserves were frozen. To this amount should be added the assets of private investors and large Russian companies that have also fallen under restrictions. However, the EU operates with much more modest sums. Judging by leaks in the Western media, the EU authorities actually managed to find only $80 billion of the total amount of blocked funds. However, the Bank of Russia, when referring to frozen assets, is referring to accounts and operations controlled by it. The regulator claimed that as of the end of November, the assets of Russian investors worth about 6 trillion rubles had been blocked in the European depositories Euroclear and Clearstream. At the same time, the aggregate amount of funds in special ruble accounts of the type that, among other things, blocked the proceeds of securities belonging to unfriendly non-residents was approaching 600 billion rubles at the end of 2022. Almost immediately after the sanctions were imposed, attempts began to recover the blocked funds, including through an exchange procedure. The head of the Bank of Russia said at a press conference on the 28th of April that the central bank was aware of sporadic responses, both positive and negative, to applications to unfreeze the assets of Russian investors at Euroclear and Clearstream, but that there was no general trend towards unblocking. However, she said as early as the 9th of June that she still considers the asset swap scheme to be working. A new round of discussion on this initiative took place during the recent forum. On the sidelines of the forum, Deputy Nabiullina pointed out that the blocked asset swap mechanism between Russia and the EU should involve a voluntary format and ensure a level playing field for Russian investors. The basic story is that it should be on the goodwill of both sides so that one agrees to exchange for the other, he stressed. But it is very difficult to create conditions for free will. In fact, the owners of these blocked assets are under pressure from their regulators. The challenge now is to work out terms that will create an opportunity for investors to negotiate. The key issue is to make sure that the deal is legally binding and recognized as valid, without the investors themselves being prosecuted in their own countries. It is important that Russian investors are on an equal footing, so that the fastest and the strongest don't end up changing everything they did well, and the weaker ones are left sitting idle. To date, no mechanism has been devised to recover this money. Some companies have initiated legal proceedings in Russian arbitration courts and even received court rulings on them, but it is not clear what to do with them next. Doubts that decisions of Russian courts will be enforced abroad, especially in the most hostile countries, are absolutely reasonable. At the same time, it is necessary to try to return the assets in any case, but it is not a question of legal practice, but of the political will of the negotiating countries when the results will appear.
Thank you for watching. If you're interested, subscribe and leave a comment.